So these are fisher maps of the boundary waters and of Quetico. These are the actual maps that we use with a compass to navigate our way through the Boundary Waters Wilderness and Quetico Provincial Park. The scale on these maps is 1.5 inches is 1 mile, and the portages are measured in rods, and 1 rod is 16.5 feet. So Dalton and I started our trip to Quetico in 2016 on a pontoon plane, flew into Lac La Croix, landed somewhere in this area, and then took a boat that towed us and our gear and our canoe all the way here to the Bottle Portage, and we entered into Quetico with this 80 rod portage, and then we started paddling in this is actually Iron Lake, down this way, and then we went along the north side of Four Island. The red dots you see are campsites. We came back south a little bit, and then heading east we took this 140 rod portage around Curtin Falls, continued east, and then went kind of northeast up the Chabon River, took the 40 rod portage, a 4 rod portage, and then we camped on night 1 right there at Middle Roland Lake. Starting day 2, we took the 15 rod portage into Roland Lake, and then the 10 rod portage continued on the Chabon River, and then we basically went straight east across this top northern part of Argo Lake, and we were going to camp right there, but it was taken. So we took the 126 rod portage up to Darky Lake, and this is where we hit right into the wind and the big waves. And we paddled north, straight north up Darky Lake. That campsite was taken. The next campsite was taken. So then we turned and headed east down the Dark River, took the 15 rod portage, and then that is where we camped on the island for night number 2. So starting day 3, we started down the Dark River, took the 182 rod portage, then the 18 rod portage into Brent Lake, and then we paddled south, took this little jog there, and then took the 90 rod portage to Cone Lake. So right there before the portage is where Dalton caught that nice northern pike, and then this was the portage that was really muddy and nasty, real difficult. Then we continued, took a 35 rod portage into Elk Lake, and we camped there on night number 3. And then day 4, we started paddling down south through Elk Lake. Right here is where we took the 3 little short portages through these little beaver ponds, as opposed to taking the 154 rod portage into Gardner Bay. And then we headed south down Gardner Bay. We went on the east side of that big island, and then took the 48 rod portage into Crooked Lake and started paddling south. And then we camped on night 4 right there on that point. The dotted line is the border between the US and Canada. And then so starting day 5, we started paddling east and then turned south again, paddled down Crooked Lake, and then to lower Basswood Falls. This is where the thunderstorm hit us, and we were right about there. Took the 33 rod portage after the storm passed, and then started paddling south down the Horse River. We had 3 portages here. First was 75 right there. Took the little jog in the river, then a 50 rod portage. There was a section of rapids, and then another 50 rod portage, and then 2 more sections of rapids. There was actually 2 additional sections that we had to line around that aren't indicated on the map. When we came into Horse Lake, We turned and paddled north to check these two campsites. Both were taken. So then we turned around and started paddling south to check on these two. And right there is where we camped on night number 5. And then our final day, we started paddling south again, took the 90 rod Portage into Tin Can Mike, and then the 160 rod Portage into Sandpit Lake, the 80 rod Portage, that was the big up and down. Apparently they call that one the Billy Goat. Took that over into Mudrow, and then there's the narrows of Mudrow as we're exiting, and then we took a 30 rod Portage to the parking lot. So that was our trip. Each one of those portages we did 3 times, double portage, and as you can see it spans over 4 different maps, and I believe we covered a little over 55 miles altogether.